This is where you shrivel up and die in your regrets.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another War of the Visions video. Today we're talking Rairyuu, who is widely considered to be the best unit in the game. Sorry, what? He's not considered the best unit in the game? What's a Frederica? Okay, so Rairyuu might not be the best unit in the game, but he is one of the best MRs around, and he is one of the very few gunners that you can get in this game, although his competition is fierce in that department. So he does have a lot of value. He's also a dark unit, which there are plenty of, but I think that he's probably one of the better units around, and he's definitely a good choice for you to build, especially if you haven't built any of the other gunners. So let's take a look at why I like him so much and why I think you should play him. So the first thing we're gonna do is we'll take a look at his kit, his jobs, his skills, and kind of piece together what kind of unit he is, and then we'll talk about his stats and his builds a little bit as well. So here we have him in all his glory. You can see that his main job is Gunner. He has a sub job of Thief and then another sub job of Red Mage. And this is kind of odd because he is a ninja. It's described that he is a ninja in his profile, and on the main website it even says I think he's one of the most deadly ninja from his village. But I think they didn't want him to be too similar to Frederica, who also who has the ninja subclass. And it's kind of odd that Frederica has that because she already has Gunner and Hunter, which fits her description. She's a hunter from Horn very well. But why Rairyuu didn't get ninja, that doesn't really make any sense to me. But Gunner and Thief do fit him quite well. It's the Red Mage job that's a little bit odd. But let's take a look at his abilities. So with Rairyuu, you're likely going to be subbing Gunner as his second job pairing here, but let's take a look at what he gets right off the bat. So as a Gunner, he's going to have access to Blackout, which is an okay attack just for inflicting blind. I don't really use it much at all. Aimed Fire is going to raise missile attack and also increase his range, and things like this, they're great TP abilities, so it's always good to have one of these. Vital Shot is pretty nice with the knockback and the high chance of a critical hit. Crits are really what Rairyuu is all about. He also gets Arm Shot, which is a very powerful attack and has a chance of inflicting disable, which is a real PvP winner if you can get it. And then Double Shot is also a powerful attack, but it's also a thing that you can use to chain dark abilities or projectile abilities if you have multiple gunners. The important thing to note with all of these skills is they actually have the range height 0, except for Double Shot has 1. So that means that if the enemy is on a different level than Rairyuu, it's very difficult for him to shoot them with his normal attack or with any of these abilities. And that's one of the reasons why you're going to use Gunner for your second one, and it's because you can use Leg Shot. And Leg Shot is going to have a range height 2, so it makes it so much easier to hit with this. It also has a low AP cost, so he can always use this at the start of battle without having used any AP skills. He can immediately go and shoot somebody, and again, you have these little added bonuses with Rairyuu of all these debuffs or these status effects that he can put on people, so Don't Move is pretty sweet. You're also going to get Counsel, which raises the critical hit rate of all your allies, and that is very solid as well. That's not a bad thing to put on anybody. And then Sidewinder, and Sidewinder is a cool AoE because it's going to hit everybody in this line, and this was way better on that initial PvP map we had when you had to go through the 2 doors only and people would line up and you'd shoot through the door and hit multiple people in a row. It's not nearly as useful now, although it does also have range height too. So by selecting the Gunner sub, you're going to get way more. You're getting more range in a way. You're getting range of height that you're not going to get otherwise, and you're also going to get Counsel. So it's not a lot of abilities, but the abilities you get are important, especially when you start the fight off and your enemies might not have come down to you, or you might not have gone up to them yet. In terms of his other jobs, you can look at Thief, and it's really just a very supporting set of abilities. So we have things like Mug, but you have to actually get right up to the person to use it. We also have something like Snipe Dagger that does have range, but his other abilities already have range. We have Steal Time, which again is very, very useful, but in a very niche way. This is going to be something you're going to use manually, maybe in the tower or in some sort of a hard mode of something to fight a boss and try to chain with it, although you might be using Rairyuu to chain anyway with his abilities. So this is really kind of a nice sub job to have, but it's not a job you're going to be equipping. As for Red Mage, it's kind of the same thing. He has heals, he has damage, he has Asuna, which is very nice, and then he has the almighty Red Mage ability, Jamming Thrust. But this is not a reason to run him on his own, just because you're really not going to use these abilities, and he's not going to auto use them right now, but I just feel like the package he gets from Gunner is better. And if we had like a really big casting meta, then maybe you'd sub for Jamming Thrust specifically, because it does have good range. It has range height too. It has good damage, but this is also based on his magic stat, and that's really where it comes down to with the Red Mage, is that his magic stat isn't very high. So taking a look at his support abilities, he has a lot of really solid ones. Like every single one of these support abilities is something that I would want to equip. So taking a look at the ones I don't have equipped, there's Missile Mastery, which is, I really think I probably should have this equipped. I have not been running with it because, again, there's just so many good choices, and I've built him to be a farming unit mostly, but if I was in PvP with him, which I'm going to be trying this week when we get that gunner friendly map, then this is probably a very important skill to have. So just straight up missile attack. He also has initial AP up and acquired AP up, which is really solid to be constantly firing off his different abilities. He already has good starting AP, which is nice. So I would like to try out the initial AP up. And then he also has Mage's Protection, which raises your magical attack resistance. And that's important because he does have a weakness to magical damage, but I think with Rairyuu, his HP is low enough that he's gonna die. Like in PvP, when you're really looking to spec a character, he's going to die to almost anything. So I don't really try to build him to survive. I just build him to do what he needs to do while he's alive. So what I do have equipped on him is Concentrate, and I think this is very important. So range +2 and lowers your evasion rate. So range +2 is just really solid, especially for farming, and that's going to be very useful in the new PvP map. And then Thief Lore, move +1, and raises agility. So his agility is already one of the highest in the entire game, and this makes him even faster. And because of his range, it's not like Mediana where she like hops over the cliff and runs straight towards the enemies and she's either going to get her special off or die. With Rairyuu, he's going to hang back a little bit further, so he has a chance to go more and shoot more, hopefully, and that's a good thing. The move +1 also means he can keep his distance, hopefully, and maybe move away from an enemy, although with the auto battle in this game, you really never know what someone's going to do. And then for reaction abilities, he has a few good ones. So I have Quick Action equipped, which increases the agility for 1 turn when taking damage, and I had that maxed out, and I know I said he's not going to survive, but I guess if he did survive, what I'd want is for him to then take his turn faster, move away, and use an ability. So that's kind of my rationale here, and I'm thinking about that more. He also has Magic Reflex, which is just chance of straight evading a magic attack, and I think that's really, really solid if we saw enough magic, and again, if he's going to be taking hits at all. I don't think he will be taking that many hits. Countershot is his other ability, and this one is really interesting because with gunners, you have to be super careful with their normal abilities, their normal attacks, their abilities, everything. It shoots in a straight line, and that means it's going to hit your opponent, it's going to hit your own guys if they're in the way of the counter shot, and that can be really brutal. I remember, again, on the old map when we had the 2 doors, there was a few times where I cast like Blizzard with Mediana, and maybe it didn't finish off a Frederica, and she would counter shoot. And I remember one time the opponent's Frederica actually finished off their own unit because the counter shot hit their own unit. So it's something that you have to consider when you're using these abilities. So I think there's some flexibility here. I think there's an argument for all three reactions, and I think there's definitely an argument for Thief Lore to be swapped out for Missile Mastery. So that's definitely something I'm going to have to look into for myself. So next up, we're going to talk about his Master ability and his stats. So his Master ability is quite good. We've got Dexterity plus 15%, Critical Damage plus 15%, and then Range plus 1. The range is obviously a very big deal for a gunner, and that critical damage is very important because Rairyuu is fairly good at critting. He's got Vital Shot as well. He's someone that when you look at the projected damage, you can't trust it because he really crits that much. The Dexterity also helps him hit and helps him crit, so that's very good. Just a nice little package overall. Very, very good Master ability. I've got his Brave raised, of course, and then that Faith I should actually lower. It kind of had some overspill from when I was raising Faith of other units, but let's take a look at his stats overall. So Rairyuu's not going to have the best stats in the game, and when you look at him compared to even Frederica, he doesn't have Frederica beat in anything, but he does have good crit chance and he does have good crit damage, and that's really where he's going to shine, in my opinion, in PvP format. And then otherwise, really, he's just a really solid unit for PvE and for farming in general. So one of the things that he does excel at is actually his agility, and I believe his agility is in the top 10 of all the units in the game, which is really crazy for an MR, and that is pretty solid because, I mean, that gives you that's one reason to take off Thief Lore, but that also lets you use the Ras Al-Ghathi gun that's going to reduce agility, and he's still going to be very, very fast. And then otherwise, taking a look at his resistances, so he's weak to magic and slashing, which is the two things that you don't want to be weak to, but doesn't really matter because his HP is very, very low. So I've got him at 1400, and then with his espers and stuff, he'll be higher, but he's not going to survive very many hits, like 2 max. So his resistances aren't really that big a deal to me. He also has that projectile resistance there. I believe, is that the spear one? I always get these two mixed up. I think this is the piercing spear one, and then this is the projectile over here. He's weak to light, of course, and then he's got some resistance to paralysis and don't act, and he's weak to sleep and to charm, although who's going to get near him to charm him anyway? Finally, let's talk a little bit about how you can build Rairyuu. So with his equipment, you're mostly going to be thinking about accessories, light armor, and then his gun. So we'll take a look at what I have for my formation right now, and this is my PvE format that I'm using him in. I don't have armor built for him yet. I really prioritize my PvP team in this game, which is Mont, Ramza, and Ayaka. So taking a look at Rairyuu, I do have the Ras Al-Ghathi. I have a +1, because, you know, it's a little too rich for my veins, but it's raised to level 40, and I could raise it to level 50, but again, I'm working on my magic nag for Ramza, so this is where it's staying at for now, and 110 power is fine. It really is. I'm actually working, I really want to max Rairyuu because I want to equip his TMR, which we can take a look at in a second, and his TMR is at 80 attack compared to this 110, so it really is a drop off, but it inflicts blind, which is pretty cool. So with this Ras Al-Ghathi, I think you could build for crit instead. I made this one before the quality of life change, so I got assault, and I thought that's definitely fine. I think there's a lot of debate about that on Reddit. I think that with Rairyuu specifically, the crit chance is probably really solid for sure. In terms of his other equipment, I think that for a TMR slot, I don't I mean, I don't really have that many TMRs, but I don't think you want to go for anything with durability. You want to probably go for something with crit or something with aim to make sure that he's hitting. And then for his other equipment slot, again, kind of the same thing. So we're about to get access to the Alexandrite ring, which is going to give resistances to all types of elements, but it's also going to give a boatload of aim. And I think that would be the type of accessory that's really solid for Rairyuu, because then you can pick off evade teams as they approach you if his accuracy is high enough, and then anything that will increase his crit chance as well is really solid. Then for vision cards, there's a few options. There's going to be some ones that I definitely don't have, like Frederica's card is really solid, but what I do have is the Sharpened Concentration card, which puts up his accuracy, it reduces his spirit, which is not a huge deal because again, he's not surviving, and then that missile attack up is very good for him as well. But then again, anything that's going to increase your critical rate up, anything that is going to increase, there's another critical rate, anything that you can get on here that's going to increase your luck as well, or your dexterity, those are all really solid choices as well in order to make him hit and make him crit. For his Esper, I do have Ifrit on right now. He's got really good stats. In terms of Espers, there are Espers that give you your shooting damage, and I believe that's Tetrasulfid is the one that just came out. I don't have that, so taking a look at what Ifrit does give him, it's going to give him some cool things like attack up, it's going to give him the accuracy. Those are pretty standard across a lot of Espers, but then the Ice Eater is kind of nice. I like to think that he could, hopefully one-shot Medianas pretty easily. I used to use him for that all the time, and then otherwise, like, this is really just an Esper that I have for him, and I have Resonance for him. I don't have a lot of Espers to choose from, so there are better Espers for him, but I think that that's totally fine because it's just it has good stats. So, with that being said, we're coming to the end of this Rairyuu guide / review, and I just want to summarize that he really is a solid unit. He's got great agility, he's got great movement, he has good range, he is amazing for farming because he can help you finish off that last enemy in every stage that's out of everyone's reach. He'll run over and he'll shoot at it. He has buffs for your party, he has debuffs for the enemy, and I think that there's also a really good possibility for him to be a good PvP unit given the right map, and that's what we have coming up next week. So I'm definitely going to do some videos showcasing him in PvP next week, but until then, let me know what you think about this, if this guide was useful to you, if you want me to do more of these, and let me know especially if you're building Rairyuu, and if you've tried any other builds, if you've tried Red Mage, if you've used Thief, because you can see that I have not used his Thief capabilities yet. And then with that said, we're going to take off. So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching this video. You can show your support with a like and subscribe, and by checking out my Patreon at patreon.com/MysidiaGaming. Until next time, keep it real, Mysidians.